All right. Well, welcome everybody to the December monthly meeting for NRASP. We've got an exciting topic today on fire prevention for you. First of all, we have just a few announcements that we'd like to go through before. Virtual meetings. We have decided to continue our virtual meeting formats into 2021 until further notice. So if anybody has any questions on that, please reach out to one of us board members and we'll help you out with that. As a way to give back to our local community restaurants, current paid NRASP members that register through Wild Apricot and attend the virtual Zoom meeting will receive a gift card to a local FM area restaurant. As a holiday gift from NRASP, members who attend the virtual session in December will receive a $20 gift card to the Cork and Cleaver. So that's our way to say thank you, and we wanted to pass that on to you. So election results. Myself and Cody Olson. Cody is our treasurer. We will be retaining our current positions on the board. The board maintained this motion and carried it in the December board meeting. So thank you for your trust in the board, and I'm honored to serve as your president. Survey. After attending this session, you will receive a survey. Please take some time to fill that survey out. That information is used for us to bring this information to you in these monthly meetings. You'll see so if you want a response or have any suggestions and you want to converse with one of us board members, in the email, please drop us an email at nraspsafetypros@gmail.com. All right, upcoming topics. January, we're still putting the final touches on our January topic. February will be ergonomics. That'll be Crystal Nelson from Fargo Ergonomics. March will be hearing conservation, and we'll hear from Bill Williams from OECS. In April will be business continuity from MMA. The conference was a huge success, and we'd like to thank all who attended and our conference sponsors once again. ASSP of the Northern Plains Division, the City of Fargo, FM Home Builders Association, Minnesota Community and Technical College, National Association of Women in Construction, Sanford Health, Sanford Ahmed, Prairie St. John's, OECS, and Recovery Reinvented. If you have a moment, please reach out and thank those sponsors. Scholarship. We still have scholarship opportunities available. Check into the NRASP website for the application and more information on that. Communications. Watch out for us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And in addition to that, all virtual presentations are featured on the NRASP YouTube channel. So, and as always, please feel free to contact any of us NRASP board members with any concerns or suggestions that you might have with your NRASP membership and events. So with that, we'll turn the video over to our presenter. So thank you.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
You're good, Dawn.
First of all, I just wanted to thank NRASP for inviting me to talk today, and I am happy to hear that other people are just as excited about fire prevention as I am. So we'll get started right into the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Becky is going to kind of monitor those throughout the presentation for me, and we will have breaks for questions so that we can get those covered. Just a little background about me. My name is Dawn Stollenwerk. I'm a Deputy Fire Marshal with the Fargo Fire Department. I have a Bachelor of Science in, go ahead.
We need to have you share your screen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
How about now?
Very good, thank you.
Yep. A little bit of background about me. I'm currently a deputy fire marshal with the City of Fargo Fire Department. My schooling, I have a Bachelor of Science in Sociology from NDSU. I started with the Fargo Fire Department in 2009 as a firefighter, and in 2014 I was promoted to my current position, where my duties include code enforcement, fire protection system plan review, new construction acceptance testing, public education, and fire investigation. In order to maintain the various certifications I have and meet the requirements held by the Fargo Fire Department for me to maintain my position, I am required to attend a minimum of 120 hours of annual training across a variety of subjects, including code enforcement, plan review, hazardous materials, investigations, public education, and various other topics such as EMT and hazardous materials. I think I said that one. I'm certified by the International Code Council as a certified fire marshal and a certified building official. And I also hold a certified fire investigator credential through the International Association of Arson Investigators. So just a little bit about me and kind of where my experience and training comes from to be able to talk to you guys today. Before we actually get to the topic, I want to talk real briefly about fire and the fire triangle. So we'll just take a quick lesson on fire. Fire requires fuel, heat. Oh, even I forgot about this poll. Thank you, Becky. Let's do this quick poll that just popped up, just so I know where you guys are coming from. If you could let me know what your background is. So while you're doing that, I'm going to keep talking. Fire requires fuel, heat, and oxygen. If you take any one of these away, you're not going to have any fire. So if you're adding water, you're reducing the heat. If you're placing a lid on a pan, you're removing the oxygen. So our goal in this presentation today, in part, is going to talk about ways to prevent these three items from coming together in sufficient quantities and duration so that we can prevent a fire. All right, so far it looks like we have a majority of safety director and manager positions. So that'll be good. I appreciate that. Fire prevention is good information from everybody, regardless of what your background is. So I'm hoping there's takeaways that you guys can use here at work and at home. Something we like to talk about in the fire department are the 4 key principles for fire prevention and safety. Strict monitoring of these 4 key principles will greatly reduce the likelihood of a fire. They also address many of the common fire code violations found during the inspection process. Here in Fargo, we've adopted the 2018 International Fire Code. If you're in a jurisdiction outside of Fargo, you may be measured against another fire code other than the 2018 International Fire Code. If you're ever unsure what your facility is being measured against, you can always reach out to your local fire department or your state fire marshal agency, and they should be able to provide you with the information as to what fire code is being used and how you can either obtain it or reference it so that you have that knowledge in your hands as well. All right, our first key principle is going to be housekeeping. To put it simply, good housekeeping acts as a great preventer of fire in and of itself. Important things to consider regarding housekeeping are combustibles. At the very basic, first of all, what is a combustible? Anything that'll burn. Most metals are not combustible. Concrete's not combustible. A lot of everything else that you're going to experience in your daily life is considered a combustible. But the important takeaway from that is combustibles are fuels. So that's one part of our triangle, and that's why it's so important that we can correctly keep track of these in our facilities to reduce the likelihood of fire. If we limit the presence of combustibles in a structure, we immediately begin to control the potential for any fire growth that we might have if a fire were to occur in your building. So something I like to, when I'm out inspecting, I like to talk to safety individuals or whoever I'm walking around in an inspection with, and talk about what is in the area. Do we have an excessive amount of combustibles? Is there a way to reduce it? First of all, ask yourself, is it needed? If it is needed, then let's keep it organized and stored in a proper manner. If it's not needed, if it's waste, get rid of it. Accumulation of waste has an amazing way of contributing to fire. I mentioned neat and orderly storage. So neat and orderly storage is actually something that is specifically called out in the fire code. That wording is directly from the fire code, and if we can maintain neat and orderly storage, we greatly have an impact on the possibility of fire within our facilities. Some of the things that we talk about in neat and orderly storage are proximity to heat producing appliances. We use a general rule of thumb of 36 inches from anything that produces heat. So you're talking baseboard heaters, furnaces, hot water heaters, stoves. Make sure that all of your storage, your combustible storage, is 3 feet away from these sources of heat, because heat and fuel together in sufficient time and duration can lead to a fire. So just by controlling our combustibles, we are going to greatly have an effect on whether or not we have a fire in the future. This is kind of something we're going to talk about periodically throughout the presentation, the combustibles, how they're stored. So I'm just going to kind of keep moving on to electrical. That is another common fire code violation I see when I'm walking through buildings, and it also falls once again under housekeeping. When you're walking through your facilities, or even in your own office or your own home for that matter, pay attention to if and how extension cords are being used. Extension cords should never be used as permanent wiring. In the fire code's eyes, permanent wiring is anything over 90 days. They should never go through a wall, through a ceiling, through a doorway, under a rug. Those are all violations of fire code and have a way of contributing to starting a fire. You have the potential to compromise the cord, pinch the cord, compromise the insulation, and now we have a source of heat for our fire to begin. Power strips and multi-tap adapters. Power strips are great. That's usually what we're going to tell you to use if you need more than one thing plugged into an outlet, but do not forget a power strip always needs to be plugged directly to an outlet. It can't go through an extension cord. It cannot go to another power strip. They're only allowed to be used when they're plugged directly into an approved wall receptacle. Multi-tap adapters, we run into these a lot. Now a multi-tap adapter, according to the International Fire Code, needs to be UL listed and overcurrent protected. Now, overcurrent protection is different than surge protection. Surge protection actually prevents your appliances from being damaged by surges in power coming through the system to your appliances. Overcurrent protection is what helps to protect the building wire from overheating by you trying to draw too much power through an outlet. So when you are looking to get a multi-tap adapter, make sure it's overcurrent protected. And usually the best way to determine if it is overcurrent protected is it's got a fuse or a switch. So if you were to overload that outlet or that strip, it's going to shut itself off. It's not going to allow you to continue to draw excess power through that building electrical system, therefore heating up the wiring within the walls. Another common thing we have, especially in our climate here, portable heaters. We run into these a lot. I have one in my office as well. Portable heaters are okay in the fire code. if they're plugged directly into a wall outlet. They cannot go through a power strip, and they definitely cannot go through an extension cord. Within the city of Fargo, we have at least a fire a year that is started because somebody is plugging in a portable heater with an extension cord. So within the fire code, there's nothing wrong with having portable heaters if they're used properly. Now, you within your facility, you can always make your rules and regulations more strict than the fire code. The fire code is the minimum. If you guys do not feel that portable heaters are a safe thing and you don't want them, that is perfectly up to you, but just know that the fire code allows them as long as it's done right. Another common violation we see when we're talking electrical, junction box covers missing, electrical panel cover either missing or blanks needed. Those are some of the very common things when we're walking around that we might see as an electrical violation, and it can be written up. And storage clearances. Storage clearances in regard to electrical. The fire code says that you cannot have any storage within 36 inches to the front of the panel and any storage within 30 inches to the sides of the panel. And this primarily is for working space for us to come in if there's an event in your facility so that we can get to the panel and shut power off as we need to. But there is also an element of fire prevention. We have seen where a building's been struck by lightning and it actually ends up blowing out the panel and sending sparks through that room. So it's always a good idea to keep that panel clear for a multitude of reasons. Our second key principle, and let's do this. Which state, if you want to kind of fill out this poll as I'm going through so I kind of know what side of the river or which state some people might be on. Like I said, if you are in Fargo, we enforce the 2018 International Fire Code. If you're on the Minnesota side of the river, Minnesota has actually taken the fire code and kind of adopted it and made it its own fire code. So for the most part, if I'm saying something today, it probably is going to be the same in Minnesota, but it never hurts to reach out to your authority having jurisdiction just to see if there's any change, since Minnesota does make a few slight changes and makes the fire code their own. All right, the second key principle, egress. Egress is for the occupant's way out and the fire department's way in. It's not just important for fire events. Think of if you have an active aggressor in your facility, how important it is to be able to let your occupants out of that building. So it's vital for an escape route for many reasons, not just fire. When we're talking egress, I want you to make sure that all of your doors are in working order. Once again, our climate, we have snow, we have ice, the ground heaves. Make sure that you're checking those exit doors regularly to make sure that they're open, they're unobstructed, and I like to say when I come out to a facility, any exit door should be open for free and instant use to people at all times. They shouldn't need any special knowledge to get out a door. The only place the fire code allows people to be locked into a facility is in a jail or an institution. So if you have a facility that has some sort of special locking mechanisms and you're not a jail or an institution, so some of the hospitals may fall under institutions in certain areas, but if you're not a jail or a hospital or a special institution, there should be no special knowledge that anybody needs to get out of your facility. They should be able to leave at any time without having to swipe a badge to open a door, to punch in a special code. Those are not allowed in the fire code. Also, make sure all paths to your exit doors are clear. We want them void of trip hazards and pinch points. Your building is designed so that exit paths do not get any narrower, excuse me, that's a hard word to say, than the last door they're going out. So for example, if it's a 36-inch door that people are going out, you need to make sure that there's a clear path. It doesn't have to necessarily be a straight path, but that there's a clear 36-inch path to that door, and at no point in that path of travel does it ever get pinched below that 36 inches. Exit signs and emergency lighting are a big factor in our egress. The fire code states that all exit signs require illumination. Now they can be illuminated internally or externally. Some of the older buildings may have paper signs. There are even some glow-in-the-dark signs that do meet the requirements for illumination because they can hold the light for a long enough time. Something to bear in mind that these exit signs and emergency lighting do have requirements for inspection, testing, and maintenance in the fire code. Your exit signs and emergency lights are supposed to be able to maintain illumination for 90 minutes after a loss of power. When we come through and we're doing our inspections and we're testing these lights, all we're doing is we're quickly pushing a button that's interrupting the power to these lights. That's not doing a full legitimate test to see if those batteries are actually going to run for 90 minutes. Some of the facilities I inspect here in Fargo will once a month run a test where they kill the breaker and they leave it off for 90 minutes to check on the status of their exits and emergency lighting. And if they're not still lit, obviously at the end of those 90 minutes, then they need to get new batteries. Obviously it gives them an opportunity to check to see if any bulbs and etc. are out. So just know that there are requirements within the fire code for how long those signage and emergency lights need to stay illuminated in the event of an emergency. The second part of this key principle I want to talk about is also access. We need people to get out, but we also need to think about access, because access is extremely important for our response as the fire department, but also think of it for your customers and your staff. Premises identification. We need, and it's a fire code requirement, that you have your building address visible from the street or avenue in which your business is labeled off of. So you need those numbers on your building visible from the street. Fire code says they need to be a minimum of 4 inches in height and a 1/2 inch stroke width. Now, if your building's set 100 feet off the street, you might not be able to read that address number. So you may need either larger address numbers, or sometimes you may have to put in a monument that's closer to that road, telling everybody what the address of your building is there. Now, yes, great, the fire department, we have GIS and computer dispatching, but sometimes those systems are down and we have to rely on the old-fashioned street numbers and the old-fashioned address numbers. So it's very important that you have your premises properly identified for us and other people that may be coming to your facility. Access in regards to lock boxes. Now, the authority having jurisdiction, if you're not within Fargo, they may have different requirements. The city of Fargo, we require a lockbox on your building if you have a potential for life safety in your building. Now, yeah, we all have occupants in your building, but the life safety we're talking about is if people are housed in your building overnight. Now, when I say housed, we're talking sleeping. So if you run a 24-hour facility and your staff is up and moving around at night, we will not require you to have a lockbox. It's more for apartments, condos, things like that. That being said, I usually will encourage any facility to put a lockbox on the outside of their building. Know that the lockboxes, you would have to contact your local authority having jurisdiction to make sure that you order the proper lockbox so that they have the key to get into that. Those lockboxes are going to contain keys that allow us into your facility. Now, this is going to be helpful to you in a couple ways. It's going to give us access to your building so we do not have to potentially break a door. Now, if we see smoke or flames, we're not waiting to get the keys out of the box. We're going to take your door. But if we don't see smoke or flames and we need to investigate a fire alarm call, those keys are going to allow us into the building to figure out what the problem is without having to necessarily disturb one of your staff members at 3 in the morning, because it seems like 3 in the morning is always the time when those incidences occur. So I recommend lock boxes. They're not required in a lot of facilities within Fargo, but I do highly encourage them. Fire department connection. Now I've got this picture up on the screen because you can kind of see behind that bush there's something red. That is actually a fire department connection. So if there is a fire in this structure, we would connect our fire hoses to that fire department connection and supplement the fire sprinkler system. Now, my guess is we are probably not even going to know that that fire department connection is there most of the time because it's covered behind that bush. So access is important to things like our fire department connection. Make sure there's nothing blocking it, a bush, there's no storage placed in front of it. And also we want access to the fire protection controls. If, let's say for example, you have a warehouse and the forklift has knocked a sprinkler head off. Quick access for us to those fire protection controls is going to allow us to get the water shut off to that sprinkler system in your building very quickly. So if you have boxes stored there, heavy items, it's going to delay us getting to those controls and shutting that system down or operating that system in any manner that we might need to protect your building. So access to those various items, not just your building, are extremely important for us in the event of an emergency. Do we have any questions that have popped up so far, Becky?
No questions, but I will go ahead and put up your next poll.
Okay. All right, so if everyone wants to take a minute to answer this poll, I'm curious to know how many facilities have fire protection systems in place. It'll help me kind of moving forward to know the audience that I'm talking to. And so far it's looking like over 50% of us have fire suppression systems in place, and maybe about a third have fire alarm systems in place. As we continue on, we'll talk about these systems, and we'll talk about the value of knowing which systems are present in your building and why it's so important for you to know what you have in your facility. So the third key principle that I have today talks about fire protection systems. I'm going to start with active fire protection systems, and I'm going to talk about fire suppression active systems. First of all, what are they? An active fire protection system means that the system is taking some sort of action in relation to the fire. For example, this might be in the form of a fire sprinkler system activating to help control the fire, or it could also be in the form of a fire alarm system providing notification and detection of a fire. Right now, we're just going to start with talking about various fire suppression systems. It's important that you know if you have a fire suppression system in your building and understand how they work. Some fire suppression systems are designed only to control the fire. So it's going to maintain that fire in a small state until the fire department arrives, and then we are going to continue to put that fire out the rest of the way. Some systems are actually designed to extinguish the fire. This would be like a commercial kitchen suppression system. They are designed to actually extinguish that fire. So it's important to kind of just understand that even though you have a fire suppression system, it maybe is not designed to put out the fire, even though they often do put out the fires before the fire department gets there. That's not how most of them are designed. Most of them are designed strictly to keep that fire in check until we can get there and complete the extinguishment process. You can find fire suppression systems in commercial occupancies, but we also have them in residential occupancies. Many new apartment buildings are required to install fire suppression systems now, and we are starting to see them in residential homes as well. So that's very exciting for us as the fire department, because the whole purpose of a fire suppression system is to keep that fire in check and allow your occupants more time to escape that fire. Hopefully this video works. It's kind of a long video. There's no audio to it, so you're not missing anything. I'm going to try and kind of push it through, but this shows you the difference between a sprinklered and a non-sprinklered space. This is a test that UL has done. They took 2 identical rooms, built them the same, furnished them the same, started the fire in the same location, and then so now we'll kind of watch as the fire progresses, and then you'll be able to see that fire sprinkler system activate and actually kind of how that fire reacts in relation to that fire sprinkler system. And I'm going to kind of speed it ahead because I realize that we're already past 11:30, so I'm going to bump this video ahead because it's just going to be watching the fire grow here for a while. And I think when we get to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll see the fire sprinkler system go. So I'm going to bump us ahead a little bit here, and we'll just watch for a few seconds on the right. Shortly here, you're going to see that fire sprinkler system activate. Right there, it activated. And you're going to see that fire dampen down and see how it brings that back in check. So it's going to hold it to that position or possibly extinguish it by the time we get there. Now, some people get a little nervous about having a fire sprinkler system in their building. If your fire sprinkler system activates, most sprinkler heads in an ordinary hazard facility like an office or a residence is going to put out somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 gallons per minute in order to keep this fire in check. Now, in comparison, if we come in with our fire hoses and go to extinguish a fire, if we only bring 1 fire hose into your facility, we're putting out 150 gallons per minute in order to extinguish that fire. So fire sprinkler systems activate at a very early stage in the fire that they can help control the fire with a significantly less amount of water than if we come in with our fire hoses. Let's see. This is a couple quick pictures of some fires that happened here in Fargo. They're both kitchen fires. The fire on the left, a fire sprinkler system activated, kept this fire in check, and you can see that there's very little mass loss and there's very little smoke damage. Now the fire in the right, you can see there is a significant amount of mass loss and a significant amount of smoke damage throughout the facility or the residence there. So fire sprinkler systems really do a great job at minimizing the damage to your facility. Here again, this fire sprinkler system kept this fire in check to a very small area there. Just so you guys are aware too, fire sprinkler systems don't work like you see on TV. It's not every sprinkler head in the entire facility is going to go off. Those are special hazard systems, and I'm not even sure we have any in the city of Fargo. In most cases, the sprinkler head closest to the fire is going to be the only one that goes off. In a rare case, you might get 2 or 3 that activate to control the fire, but most sprinkler systems are not designed to activate all at once, and they usually don't activate when you pull the pull station. Once again, those are special hazard systems. We don't have many of them in the city. Another way, active fire suppression, fire extinguishers. You see them all throughout your facility. Placement and type vary by hazard within the fire code, but the basic requirements are for a 2A 10BC fire extinguisher located within 75 feet of travel distance anywhere in your facility. So that's what most requirements will fall under for your facility. But if you have a special hazard, you may have to ask your fire department if they have a different fire extinguisher that's required, or if the travel distance is different. To use these, they're very simple. You pull the pin, you aim the nozzle at the base of the fire. This is very important. Don't just aim it at the center of the fire. Aim that nozzle at the base of the fire. You squeeze the lever and then think of sweeping that fire off of whatever is burning. That's why you aim it at the base. You're sweeping that fire off. So that's just a quick fire extinguisher lesson there. Let's talk about fire alarm systems, another part of the active fire protection system. It's designed to recognize there is a fire and notify occupants of the fire, allowing them time to evacuate. Some fire alarm systems are monitored by a monitoring company, which will contact the local fire department in the event of a fire alarm activation, and some systems report only locally. Now, it's very important that you know what type of fire alarm system you have in your building. Because if you have a fire alarm system that responds and reports locally only, it's not telling the fire department there's a fire. So we need someone in your facility to actually make that phone call to 911 to let us know that the fire alarms are activated and there's something that needs to be investigated. The requirements for monitored systems or local only systems have changed throughout the years in the code. In most cases, the type of system you have depends on the code in which the system was installed under. But you need, as your facilities manager, or even just an occupant of the building, it's a very good idea for you to know what type of system is present, so you know if you should be calling 911. Let's see, we're gonna go by this part really quick, just the basic fire alarm system parts. I don't think this will be new for many people. The common things that people think as part of their fire alarm systems are your smoke detectors, your heat detectors, and your pulse stations. Other components that maybe aren't as well known as being part of your fire alarm system is your fire suppression systems. So if you have a sprinkler system, if you have a commercial hood suppression system, if you have a clean agent system, in most cases, these systems are also tied to your fire alarm system. So if they activate, your fire alarm system is going to activate and notify your occupants so that you can get them out in a timely manner. Your fire alarm control panel, that is one of those things that we want to make sure we have clear access to at all times. That is the brains of your fire alarm system, and it gives us a multitude of information on where the fire might be and where we need to start investigating. So make sure that we always have clear access to those fire alarm panels. And then the notification devices are very important, so that we need to make sure that those are working so people know it's time to get out of your building. Let's move on to 3 is passive fire protection. So we're going to talk about fire barriers and opening protectives. A passive fire protection system means it's doing its job strictly by just being there, like a firewall. A closed fire door is also passive fire protection. Now, if you have a fire door that's open and designed to close as a result of heat or smoke, this technically falls under the active fire protection systems. We're going to talk about them now just because it's easier to talk about it all at once. Now, these passive fire protection systems are important because they're going to create a barrier between you and the fire, or the fire and the rest of your building. This video we're going to watch because this helps to visualize the importance of fire doors. And we might sneak ahead through this video, but this one does have audio, and I think this one is really important. And like I said, this is information that's good for at home as well.
We're here at the Delaware County Emergency Services Training Center in Pennsylvania, where we're repurposing one of our test fixtures to do a demonstration for Fire Prevention Week on the importance of closing your door. This year's theme, Close Before You Doze, will let us highlight the importance of putting that important barrier between you and the potential fire before you go to sleep at night. We're going to have an experiment where we're going to light the fire in the living room, cutting off your main source of egress. We're going to see how long it takes those smoke alarms to go off to give you that early warning, and look at what important role that the closed door plays in providing you time to be woken, understand what's happening around you, decide whether or not you can get out safely or not, and ultimately, if you can't, the important protection that it provides you to buy you time so the fire department can come and rescue you. In this 3-bedroom house, what's important to us is how long the occupants would have to survive. In order to determine that, we've got temperature measurements at every foot in every room in the house. We've got oxygen, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide measurements in the bedrooms as well as the hallway to understand what the potential occupants would be exposed to, along with our regular measurements of pressure, video, thermal imaging throughout the house so we can quantify the fire behavior. That fire is going to begin to spread across the sofa, filling the house with smoke and heat. That smoke is going to begin to bank down. What we're looking at is the obvious difference in conditions between the open bedroom and the closed bedrooms and what that means for occupant survival time. We're going to allow that fire to progress, and we're going to be watching the front windows to the living room. The question to us is going to be, are those front living room windows going to fail or not? That fire is going to become ventilation limited, the windows are going to go out, we're going to have fire out of the front of the house, and we're going to continue to look at how that deteriorates conditions inside the house. Once we have that fire out the windows and things are not survivable in the open bedroom, we're going to have our suppression crew go ahead and move in, put the fire out.
I like this video because it shows the importance of your fire doors and your fire barriers. Now, you can see how important it is for your home, but this is also true in the facilities that you manage and work for. Closed doors are going to create a barrier between you and the fire. It's going to help protect your facility from fire spread and fire damage throughout the facility. And it's also going to give your occupants more time to evacuate. Now, if we look at this closed bedroom, if we read further, the carbon monoxide levels in there do get to 600 parts per million. That still can be a fatal level. So the point of this is those toxic fumes still go throughout your facility and they get everywhere. A closed door is going to give you additional time. You still need a plan for evacuation though. But as you can see, as far as your facility, you're going to have an area that's protected from heat, a lot of smoke, and of an area that needs very little remodeling compared to the rest of the facility. So it's important to know that your fire doors close, they close and latch. And if they're not on automatic closing devices, that they stay closed at all times unless somebody's passing through them. That is, again, a fire code violation, something that we look at when we're coming through your facility. We are checking your fire doors. Some facilities have roll down fire doors or fire curtains. Know that those have a code requirement to be tested annually. If you don't have staff that knows how to test them per the manufacturer's recommendations, there are companies in town that you can hire to do annual tests on your fire doors. Just make sure as a facilities person that you're keeping record of your testing and maintenance of your fire doors, because your inspector, when they come through, should be asking you for those records to see them. I'm not going to talk about the carbon monoxide. We're just going to keep going. It just that Even though that door is protecting you from fire and giving you additional time to egress, you do need to be making a plan to get out because carbon monoxide will still be getting into those spaces. If you can take a little time and answer this poll so I know if you are a person in your facility that has access to those inspection, testing, and maintenance reports that will be done on your fire protection systems. And it looks like so far over half of you do receive those reports, and about a third of you, somebody else in your facility receives those reports, so that it's good that you guys know you're getting reports. It's really important that you guys take the time to read those reports and ask any questions back to the company that's conducting those inspections. From my experience, when I come and look at those reports, sometimes a violation might be noted on an inspection, testing, and maintenance report, and the person that I'm walking through the facility doesn't even know that there was a violation. So it's very important that you have someone in your facility that's taking that responsibility and they are reading thoroughly through those reports as they come in, because you need to make sure that your system's being inspected, tested, and maintained properly, because if you need it, you want to know it's going to work. And we have seen systems that I've seen a violation be written up on a system for several years, and I come through and I look at the report and I ask them why this hasn't been addressed, and then when we actually look at what's causing this violation, I found that the water to the facility didn't even have the gate all the way open, so they weren't receiving, excuse me, the proper water pressure to their facility to even operate that sprinkler system how it needed to be operated in the event of a fire. So it's extremely important that somebody is taking the time to read through that report and you guys are figuring out what the violation is and how that violation can be remedied so that your system is going to work as intended. Both active and passive fire protection systems require some degree of inspection, testing, and maintenance in accordance with the fire code, the regulatory standard in which they were installed, and the manufacturer. So for example, just regular wet pipe sprinkler systems, the basic testing requirements are an annual test requirement. They do have 5-year test requirements and other things as well, but at the basic minimum, it's an annual test requirement. Most of the alternative automatic fire extinguishing systems, such as clean agent, kitchen hood suppression systems, require a twice-a-year test. Fire alarms require annual tests, and as I said earlier, fire doors actually require annual tests as well. So make sure that your systems are being maintained as they should be, which also includes per the manufacturer. Some of you may have fire pumps in your facilities. Many fire pump manufacturers require weekly testing of that fire pump. Now, it may be a very cursory test, but just make sure that you're testing all of your systems, not only to the code and to the standard, but to the manufacturer as well. Sometimes I see on a report that the fire alarm was tested, but they chose not to test the notification because it was going to disrupt the staff and the work day. My message to you is when they test your fire alarm system, make sure they are completely testing it, because that would be, for me, I would hate to hear that, yeah, your fire alarm system activated, but the notification devices didn't go off, and we didn't know because we've told them not to test and make noise for the last 5 years. You need to make sure that all of your systems are being tested appropriately. And the fourth key principle is hazardous processes. Now, a hazardous process is something that increases the risk of harm and loss to your facilities, employees, and neighboring businesses. In Fargo, we regulate these hazardous processes through the International Fire Code. There are currently 50 hazardous processes that require operational permits in the fire code. Once again, if you're in a different jurisdiction, you might not have operational permit requirements through the fire department and the fire code. But what I'm here to tell you is your fire department can still provide you guidance. If you're doing a hazardous process in your building, even if they don't require you to have an operational permit in order to conduct that hazardous process, they still have access to the code regulations and rules that are going to help guide you to do those processes in the safest manner possible to prevent a fire or an emergency within your building. So please use your fire department as a resource. Some examples of those hazardous processes in the fire code are hot works, public assembly. Now, public assembly is considered a hazardous process just because you are assembling a greater number of people in a space. Obviously, a higher threat for life safety. Flammable and combustible liquids, storage and handling, compressed gases, repair garages, and high piled storage. Those are just a few of, like I said, the 50 operational permits that are in the fire code, but those are some of the common ones that we see throughout the city here. Once again, if you're not in the city of Fargo and you feel that you possibly do a hazardous process, reach out to your local fire department or the state fire marshal agency for guidance on if you're doing things properly and as safe as possible. So in summary, being aware and taking action on the 4 key principles of fire prevention will help to protect your facilities and their occupants. I kind of rushed through the end there because I know we're getting close on time. Let's see if we have any questions so far, Becky.
I don't have any on the chat, but I did have a question myself just based off of one of the last slides you talked about with getting the fire department involved. One of my previous jobs, we had confined spaces, and we actually contacted the local fire department, and we practiced rescue with that. Is that something the Fargo Fire Department offers to local businesses?
So what I can say in my experience, if you have a hazardous process or if you have confined spaces, chemicals, unusual chemicals, we highly encourage you. We should know that those spaces exist, but we're partners in keeping your facilities and your occupants safe together. Reach out to us. You can even reach out to me and I can help put you in contact with the right people. We're a team. We want to do this together. We have in the past, yes, arranged training together in certain instances so that, you know, I don't do the training for our department, but in the past that has been an option. But just keep in mind that we're on the same team. Our goals are the same. Reach out to your fire department, give them as much information as you can so that we can be more knowledgeable when we respond to your facilities. Or, like you said, if we can take part in some training with you as well, that's beneficial for all involved. Great question.
Good.
How much more time do we have, Becky?
We're at 5 minutes. One other question I have for you is, are you able to share your slides?
Yes, I should. I can do that, and I can get those to you. Hopefully by the end of the day. It might take a day or two, but yep, I can get those to you so you can make those available.
Wonderful. Well, we will get that posted on our website. At this point, I don't show any questions, so I will go ahead and hand it back over to Chuck to take us out for today.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you guys today.
And thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, Dawn, thank you very much. I did have a question. Do you see a lot of residential homes that are retrofitting fire suppression systems, and do insurance companies offer discounts for that?
Great question. What I can tell you is we don't see a lot of homes retrofitting, but we have seen some. Obviously, it's easier to do from a new construction point, but we do have a couple in town that are retrofitting, and I would encourage, if it's something that you're thinking about, I do know some insurance companies do offer discounts I don't know that all of them do, but I do know that there are some. Great question, thank you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today. Please take the time to fill out the survey. You should have received that or will be receiving it shortly. And with that, we'll let everybody get back to their day. And thank you and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you back after that. Have a great day.